Good morning, Nigeria, and welcome to another edition of What's Your Take? My name is Dayo Akintobi, and I'll be taking you through all the big stories that made the headlines this past week. Well, as you know, this is a very big week. This is election week. This Saturday, all things being equal, Nigeria will hold its presidential election for 2023. Now, with 6 days to go, there's still so much turmoil across the country, especially as occasioned by the issue of Naira scarcity. Well, I'm happy to report that the fuel shortage is actually getting better. The queues are reducing and there's a bit more fuel in the system, but it is still not adequate and people are still going through pains to get petrol. But by and large, the bigger problem is the issue of Naira scarcity, the issue of insecurity, and the issue of INEC's preparedness, because also in the news, there's been another attack on an INEC facility over this weekend. So these are some of the issues that we'll be looking at. And joining me to tell us about some of these stories is our newscaster, Yetunde Afolabi. Yetunde, how are you this morning?
Good morning, Dayo. I'm very well, thank you.
A very fine morning to you. How was your weekend and how did this issue of the Naira scarcity affect you? Did you have any personal experiences, personal inconveniences, or were you in any way sidelined by virtue of the fact that you didn't have any cash in your pocket?
Well, I couldn't step out this weekend solely because of the cash, but I stepped out sometime last week and it was via an Uber. I told him I could offer cash, and he offered to give me a discount as well as pay for my lunch because he was excited to get cash for the trip. So it's not very pleasant not having cash in my pockets and my wallets, but let's see how it goes.
Yes, your experience is typical of many Nigerians, so you're not alone in that respect. All right, so let's, without further ado, get to look at some of the stories that made the headlines last week. Joining me to take a look at these stories and to take a deep dive into analyzing them is Deji Bademosi, a journalist based in Lagos. Welcome to the show, Deji.
Thank you very much.
It's wonderful having you with us today. All right, Yetunde, over to you. Tell us what you have for us on the first story.
Naira crisis. APC Governors adamant, task President Buhari, Attorney General Malami, and CBN Governor Godwin Emefiele to obey Supreme Court order. The National Working Committee, NWC, of the All Progressives Congress, APC, has asked the President, the Attorney General of the Federation, and the Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria to obey the order of the Supreme Court on the implementation of the Naira swap policy.
Thank you, Yetunde. This seems unprecedented in the annals of Nigerian political history, that APC governors within the same party, will be going up against the leader of their party, the president, on a policy that they don't agree with. Usually you will find that governors toe the line and just fall in line with whatever the president says. Is this the first time this has ever happened? And what are the implications of El Rufai, Ganduje, and some of, even the chairman of the APC stood up yesterday at the end of the NWC meeting to say that they align with the Supreme Court's decision that the status quo should be maintained and the old notes should be allowed to continue to circulate until the Supreme Court makes a ruling on the matter. How do you see this? What's your take on this, Deji?
Well, of course, quite a number of people are actually surprised that the APC governors would be going against the president, who is, of course, the leader of their party. But I think this is very good for democracy, if you ask me. This is one policy that affects the entire country, affects the common man. It affects everybody. So, and it's a policy that, whether we like it or not, is not popular. People are not really against the policy per se, but the implementation. So everyone is affected. These governors are representatives of the people.
But do you think the governors are fighting for the people or fighting for themselves?
Well, it's neither here nor there. It's neither here nor there. And I think the governors may be fighting for themselves, but they're also fighting for the people as well. Because you can imagine the number of calls they'll be getting from their constituents. Imagine the number of calls they'll be getting from their family members, their relatives, and everybody. Look, it really doesn't matter whether they are fighting for themselves or fighting for the people. The most important thing is, what exactly are they fighting for? What they are fighting for, would it be for the benefit of all? And the answer is yes. So I can understand. I mean, no doubt at all. One of the reasons, of course, you would say, politically speaking now, one of the reasons why the APC governors, of course, will be fighting against this is because, look, this is an election period. And whether you like it or not, their party is a party in power. This has not gone down well with the people of this country. So supposing the people of this country decide to take it out on their party. So what they are trying to do is to, probably politically speaking now, to say, look, yes, it is true we're the party in power, but the truth is that, look, this is not our own making at all. We are not in support of this, and that is the reason why we're even rising up against our own president to say, no, we can't accept this. So for the first time, you have governors who belong to the same party as the president lining up against the president and saying, look, you know what, the Supreme Court has to be obeyed. And fortunately for them, they have the law on their side. So what they are now trying to do is, to possibly force the government now to obey constitutional order, to obey the Supreme Court, to obey the law, to toe the line of legality.
But Deji, there's a school of thought. I'm not a lawyer, I'm not sure you are either. But there's a school of thought, having listened to public opinion, especially from lawyers in the last several days. There's one school of thought that says that since the CBN was not joined in lawsuit, and also the CBN being an independent agency, that it's vested with the authority to do whatever it wants with the currency. Deji,
let me ask you one thing there.
Yes, ask.
Who has been making pronouncements all this while?
In terms of the currency?
Yes.
The CBN.
Is it the CBN or the president? So, for instance, who for instance, gave the order for 200 Naira notes to be the old notes? It's the president.
Yes, because the CBN
now, hold on. No, but this is the point. Who, before the CBN started this policy,
yes,
you saw how many times the CBN governor had to go consult with the president.
Yes.
And it's clearly stated in the CBN Act that when it comes to the issue of the currency, redesigning and what have you, the CBN does it in consultation with the president.
Absolutely.
And the argument that has been made by some other lawyers too, and that I buy, is that, look, the independence that you're talking about, the independence of the CBN has to do with its statutory function.
Right.
So the CBN is not an independent entity. Whether you like it or not, the CBN still take orders. It's a creation of the Constitution, and it's an agency of the federal government.
Yes.
And that is the reason why, before the CBN started this whole process of redesigning the currency, the CBN governor had to go seek audience with the president, get the president's approval. Don't also forget, when after the CBN governor had made the announcement, don't forget that at some point when the issue became very contentious and people were asking that the date should be shifted. Remember, the initial date was not February 10th.
Yes.
The CBN governor had to travel to Naira to meet with the president. It was only after the CBN governor got the approval of the president that he came out to announce that he was shifting. The governor was, that they were shifting. So this, as far as I'm concerned, and from what I have heard from other senior lawyers as well, the CBN is bound by this. And one of the reasons that I understand the CBN, if the governors had just taken the CBN to court, they would have been required to, for instance, to file the case to file the case before a federal high court, a federal institution. And even at that, I mean, you need to give a certain amount of notice now before filing that case. So we probably would not be here today. And the truth is that state governments actually have the powers and the rights to take up an issue now against the federal government before the Supreme Court, and that's what they have done. And I think the Supreme Court justices, for God's sake, I think we must accept the fact that, look, these men know the law. They are not stupid. They know the law better than we do. They know the law better than most of the lawyers who are speaking. This was a unanimous decision by the panel of 7 justices.
There are some people who will ask you that the Supreme Court's role is interpreting the Constitution. They are to interpret law, not make law.
Well, have they made it? The truth is, have they made any law?
But what law were they interpreting by telling the CBN to carry on distributing old notes? What law were they interpreting?
They said maintain status quo. Maintain status quo is allow what was before this issue came,
yes,
allow it to flow. So it's not as if, listen, it's not as if they made a law. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not in the best position to even speak on probably the functions and what the Supreme Court should have done and what it shouldn't have done.
Yes.
But I think the Supreme Court decision, as far as I'm concerned, was the right one.
Yes.
And the Supreme Court in this case, I mean, having looked at the hardship
yes,
that this policy has caused,
yes,
having looked at several other issues, it decided to give that injunction.
yes.
And what's wrong in waiting? What's wrong in waiting until February 22nd, when the Supreme Court would hear the matter and probably whether change or make? What's wrong in waiting? And can we deny, Dio, can we deny that Nigerians are not suffering as we speak?
No, we can't.
What is
deny
the essence of government?
Exactly. I think that's where Deji's going.
That's the
with
key
this.
thing.
I think that's what
What's
you're
the
saying,
essence of government?
is that no matter what it takes, as long as it impacts the people, all three levels of government should find a way to create succor.
So what's the essence
for
of
the
government?
people. Absolutely. Thank you on that, Deji. Let's go. Yetunde, we're fast running out of time. So Yetunde, take us through the next story, which I think is still on the issue of this Naira scarcity. We may have addressed some of it in what we've discussed before, but I'm particularly interested in the part where President Buhari is asking for patience and vowing to end the hardship. Over to you, Yetunde.
Yeah. Still on Naira scarcity, pains worsen as Naira scarcity continues across the country. President Buhari asks for patience, vows to end hardship. President Buhari has appealed to Nigerians to be patient as the government takes appropriate measures to ease the hardship being experienced from the Naira scarcity. In a video message from Ethiopia, where he's currently attending an African Union summit, the president said, "I want to once again assure you that I am fully aware of the current hardship you are facing as a result of some policies of the government which are meant to bring overall improvement to the country." The president also drummed up support for the presidential candidate of his party, Senator Bola Ahmed Tinubu, saying, "He is reliable and I know he will build on our achievements." How do you see this, Dio? 2 weeks ago, the president promised to resolve the issue on Naira scarcity. What's your take?
Interesting, yes. Deji, 2 weeks ago, we talked about it on this program that President Buhari asked us to give him 7 days to resolve the Naira scarcity.
And what did he do?
And it's 14 days, 15 days, 16 days, and we're still going through the same rigor. So when I hear him yesterday in his video message saying, please be patient, give us some more time to sort this problem, I take it with a pinch of salt. How do you see it?
I take it with a pinch of salt as well. And, you know, is it not an irony that you're asking for patience to solve a problem that you created?
Yeah.
So this is not a problem that was thrown on us.
No.
This is a problem that was created by the president. And the president is now asking us for patience to solve the problem that he created.
Could it be that he didn't anticipate or foresee some of these issues?
How could he not have seen? How could he not have seen? How could he not have anticipated this? Wasn't this discussed at ESCO?
Maybe he didn't get the right advice.
No, but the truth is, the question, and I think that's a question we need to ask.
Yeah.
Was this actually discussed at the Executive Council meeting of the Federation? Was it discussed? What was discussed? Did the president, was the ESCO unanimous in their decision to say
about
the
whether to do it or not?
Whether to do it or not?
Or how to do it?
Or how to do it? How could you not have anticipated that this was going to happen? I'm shocked that the president did not know before now that about 60% or more of Nigerians are unbanked. The president did not know before now that this country, that the economy of this country is basically run on cash. It's informal. Mm-hmm. The president is not aware that the majority of Nigerians live in rural areas. When the multidimensional poverty index came out the other day, it became very clear to everyone that the majority of Nigerians live in rural areas and that is where poverty actually resides. So the president didn't have all of this information. Even his minders and all those who advised him didn't have this information. I can't understand. You know what I think? This is what happens when you let politics come in the way of what should have been a very fantastic policy. This is politics now, trumping monetary policy. And I sympathize with the CBN governor too.
He's just a pawn in a chess game.
Exactly. What could he have done anyway? But some people would say, look, if you're a man of principle and you know this is not right, what do? You can step aside. You can decide to resign. Dayo, what is the state of our economy even before this policy was rolled out?
Gasping for air on life support.
Honestly, and what is happening now? It's been destroyed.
Yes.
And you know, the irony of it all, nobody is putting a cost to this. Nobody is putting a cost now to the disruptions caused by this policy.
The devastation, yes.
It's a must. Go to local markets.
Monumental.
Try.
Yes.
Empty.
Yes, indeed. Everywhere.
I can't understand it. So when the president asks for patience to resolve this problem,
yes,
you get the impression it's a problem that was just thrust on us.
Yes.
He created the problem.
Yes.
He knows the solution. He should just do it.
But he do you think ostensibly his reason for doing this is to sanitize politics? He wants to take cash out of the hands of those who could use cash to influence the elections. Is there a price, assuming you're looking in the long term and saying that is a good goal for Nigeria, if we take cash out of politics and we allow elections to be free and fair and the will of the people to prevail without the influence of money? So is there a price that is too high to pay to get to that point?
Now let's face the issue of this, the issue of vote buying. The question you want to ask is this how to fight vote buying? Is this the best way to fight vote buying? Do you punish everybody just because you want to deal with just a select few? How? Vote buying, is it a new thing in Nigeria? In Nigerian politics? Is it a new thing in politics across Africa? Do you address it in just 2 or 3 months? The answer is no.
Not in 2 or 3
You can't even eliminate it.
No.
And then I think it is wrong to give off the impression that elections in this country, that the outcome of elections are determined by money. I disagree. I have covered elections in this country for a long time. For a long time. I've covered several elections.
But you must admit that money plays a role.
Yes, no doubt. Money plays a role everywhere. There's no doubt at all. Money plays a role. But we cannot say money actually determines the outcome of elections in this country. Because when we say that,
how many votes
how many votes can you buy? And then you are saying that Nigerians are incapable of choosing their leaders.
They don't have a mind of their own.
Yes, that they don't have a mind of their own. That the moment you dangle money at them, nothing matters. That is not true.
At least the president was elected.
Now, the president was elected in 2015.
Yes.
He defeated an incumbent.
Yes.
Was it money that bought him the election?
Not at all. There was money influence, probably.
Yeah, but yes, there was money. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So that's the point. Was it money that also bought him re-election in 2019?
No, people
was
were happy with the job he was doing.
Was it money that bought Jonathan the election of the election in 2011? So let's just. I think we're sending a wrong message to the world. Okay. We're telling the world that, look, you know what? Something about Nigerians. Nigerians, without money, Nigerians do not think straight. Without money, they cannot make the right decision.
Nothing could be further from the truth than that.
That's what we're doing. And you know the irony of it all? What we're doing now, will not stop vote buying. It will rather worsen it.
Yes, because people will sell their vote for cheaper now to get a small amount of money.
People cannot get access to the new notes.
Yes.
And then, I mean, imagine the POS operator who sells 10,000 naira for 4,000 naira. And then if you, as a voter, who probably hasn't eaten or has been struggling to get hold of this new notes, suddenly somebody appears and then gives you 2,000 naira on election day and say, look, you take. You would want to take it. So most of these people that they accuse of selling their votes would want to do that.
Yes.
So what we have done is to worsen the problem of vote buying. It just doesn't make sense to me. So this is certainly not the way to fight vote buying. If people are why do you have the EFCC? Why do you have the security agencies? Why are we making excuses for them?
So it's not the policy you have the problem with, it's the way and the timing that is implemented.
Yes. Good to redesign the currency. I mean, we know that the CBN governor made it clear that, look, we haven't redesigned this currency for how long now? For about 19 years. And that the policy is that I think maybe after 5 or 10 years, there should be a new note. So good, we're doing this, but how do you do this in just one fell swoop? Come, you ask people to come, bring their money. You call it Naira swap, that you want to swap their money. So the whole idea literally means bring and you take. But what are they doing? They've just taken people's money. They've not given them anything. And you know what? Why we have this problem now? Because nobody is depositing anything.
No.
Everybody is withdrawing. Everybody wants to take out.
Yes, because
so
we've
how
all
could
paid
you,
in what
yes,
we have,
exactly.
and
So
they kept it.
how could you not have envisaged this kind of problem?
And going back to what you're saying, we have some video that shows some of the skirmishes, because Nigerians have really had it up to here.
Coming to this place today,
Yes.
around town,
Yes.
across Lagos,
Yes.
just what I saw,
Yes.
in front of banks.
Yes.
My God.
We're going to roll some video now and show some
Sometimes
of
I
the
just,
experiences.
it reminds me of Zimbabwe of those days.
With 1 million naira
yes,
notes.
exactly. And when the sanction really beat
Yes.
harder.
Yes. All right, let's watch some video of what some Nigerians went through in the last few days, trying to get some Naira notes and trying to express themselves, express their pain, their anguish, and the difficulty that they've had dealing with this policy.
We now want new money, oh! We now want new money, oh! We now want new money, oh! May they give us our own money back, oh! Both Amagege, Okowa, all of them have been wish. Tinubu.
Hello, my people. You can see in Enugu, the whole keke and the bus drivers park and block the highway, refusing anybody to park. Why? Because ATM is charging too much, fuel is charging too much. This is Abba Road, as you can see. Keke people block everywhere and saying that they should reduce the price of fuel or else they will shut down everywhere. You can see 6th Avenue is blocked. People are blocking everywhere. You can see the filling station. Fuel is 450 in Enugu and everybody is protesting about it. You can see everybody. Look at people. Look at Keke. Look at buses everywhere. As you can see, people are blocking the road, saying there is no more other movement. They don't want to do keke again, no bus again. Protests have started. Revolution have started in Enugu against government and independent marketers of fuel and people who are making this.
And there you have it, a bit of the pain being expressed by Nigerians over the weekend at the difficulty and the hardship that we're all experiencing from this Naira shortage. In a related story, the Kaduna and Kano governors and some other governors are beginning to go against, they're no longer waiting for the Supreme Court date to arrive. They've taken some steps on their own to bring some succor to their parents, to their citizens, as Deji has mentioned earlier. Yetunde, can you tell us the next story about what the governors are doing to ease the hardship on some of their citizens?
Of course. Naira swap. Kaduna, Kano governors, others, direct continued use of old notes in their states. Going explicitly against the president's and the administration's position on the old notes, some governors have directed agencies in their states to continue accepting the old notes in accordance with the subsisting Supreme Court's order. In direct defiance of the president, Governor Ganduje of Kano State has stated that his government will destroy commercial banks in Kano State that refuse to accept old notes. Kaduna State Governor Nasir El-Rufai has directed MDAs in Kaduna State not to reject old notes. Other governors, including Babajide Sanwo-Olu of Lagos State, have threatened to revoke certificates of occupancy of any business that rejects the old notes. Dayo, what's your take on this confrontation between the federal government and some state governors?
Deji, you mentioned it earlier. You said as far as the responsibilities of the governors go, their primary responsibility is to their constituents, to the residents of their states. And whatever it takes, their primary responsibility is to give succor, find a way, of course, within the bounds of the law, to bring succor to their residents. Here we are now, seeing some governors standing up to the federal government, even within the same party. This struggle, this confrontation, will it have ramifications? First of all, can you really fight the federal government and win? Secondly, will there be ramifications or fallout for these maverick governors who are going up against their own leaders politically?
Well, politically, some of the governors are actually doing their second and last term. So, and then you have a president who's doing his last term as well. Now, what would happen to them politically? I don't think much. I don't think anything much would happen. You see, it's a complicated situation. On the one hand, you would say, well, the governors ought to have shown some kind of respect for the president's pronouncement or what have you. But on the other hand, too, you also ask yourself, what about the president who made this pronouncement extrajudicially? You know, because whether you like it or not, in the face of the law, the president clearly overrules the Supreme Court, and that's clearly out of order. That's illegal, so to speak. So the president actually created this situation.
Yes.
This would not have happened if the president had towed the line of legality in this situation.
Yes. So
This would definitely not have happened. But then a governor now given directive to his to citizens of his state to continue to use the old currency. Of course, they are right. I mean, by law. By law, they are right, because that's actually that's, as far as we're concerned, that's the law of the country today.
Well, isn't that leading them down a pit hole?
Well,
because if they collect that money, suppose the CBN refuses to take it from them, can Governor El Rufai make that money spendable?
That is where the challenge is. That is where the challenge is. You know, that's where the challenge is, and that's why I said this is somewhat complicated. But this should not have happened.
No, it shouldn't, but it has.
It should not have happened in the first place, yes. They'll look for a way to resolve this.
Okay.
And I think what the governors are doing is just to send a strong message to the president that, look, Mr. President, what you did is wrong. You don't act outside of the law in this case, especially when you consider the fact that this is a sensitive case that affects everyone. And I think the governors are also, by their action, trying to send a message to their citizens as well to say, look, we're not part of this. We want you to know that we're not part of this.
Okay.
So you could also say it's political as well.
I see.
But I still go back to the fact that we should not have been where we are today.
Absolutely.
So the president has asked for patience. Let's see how he resolves this within the next few hours. So he asked for patience the other time.
Yes.
Nothing came out.
Happened.
So the patience is asking for when. When is he going to address the problem?
Yes.
We have elections coming up in a few days' time.
Yes.
And Dio, look, this whole Naira thing has overshadowed the election. We can't deny that.
Absolutely.
And if this continues, it will impact the election negatively.
It will impact the outcome.
Even as we speak today, it's going to impact the election negatively. It might even get worse if nothing is done between now and the election day.
Yes. So at the end of the day, what I'm hearing coming from you is that a governor's primary responsibility is to his constituents before his president or his party leader.
They swore an oath anyway.
Yes, they did. Indeed. Thank you. Yetunde, what do you have next?
Bishop Kuka, Buhari, Jonathan, others became president unprepared. Over to you, Dio.
Interesting. Bishop Kuka is saying that President Buhari, President Jonathan, even President Obasanjo, who came out of prison, what he's trying to say is that part of the problems we have in this country today came from the fact that our leaders were unprepared for office. He gave the example of President Obasanjo, who he said came out of prison. He gave the example of President Jonathan, who was an accidental president who never really planned for it. But I would beg to disagree with him about President Buhari, though, because President Buhari ran for office 4 or 5 times before he eventually got in.
In fact, I disagree.
I think that was plenty enough time for him to have prepared himself.
In fact, I disagree completely with him. I don't think they came... Obasanjo did not come into office unprepared. He had even been president, head of state before.
But under a military regime.
Under a military
it's
regime.
A different ball of wax to prepare as a democratic president.
Accepted, but we were also just returning
Coming
to
back
democracy.
To democracy.
Anyway,
so it was new for everybody.
So it was new for everybody.
Right.
Jonathan had been vice president.
Right.
Before he became president.
Okay, let me ask you this.
So what kind of preparation?
If you are prepared, why should it take you 3 or 6 months to get your cabinet?
Well,
your cabinet in America, the cabinet is announced the same week of inauguration.
Yes, exactly.
Why does it take you, if you are prepared,
it's
6 months to know who you want to put in what position?
It's because of the stupid politics we play here. It's because of the stupid politics we play. It's because of the stupid politics
Horse
we play. Because
trading,
yes,
you
horse
owe this
trading,
person a
you
position.
want to appease everyone. And who says you cannot actually start with a couple of ministers and then, you know, as you move on, you add and all of that? It's a shame that it took, for instance, President Buhari several months before appointing his ministers.
And you don't think that impacted governance?
Well, whether it impacted governance, it's neither here nor there. If you ask me, it's neither here nor there, because I think at some point you would expect that the lost ground would have been covered.
Right.
But the challenge is that when you allow politics to cloud your sense of judgment, it takes time for you to take certain decisions. And that's what we're seeing. That's what we're even seeing with the Naira policy. So you have a president who said, for instance, give me 7 days and I'll resolve this. And
he was unprepared to resolve it in 7 days.
Even after more than a week,
down, yes.
You understand. And now he's asking. So I don't think they were unprepared. I think they probably got in, and some of them got overwhelmed by the job, and because President Jonathan was prepared. So how do you see? He had been schooled. He had been vice president for how many years before he became president?
What is the state of preparedness of the 4 front runners for this Saturday? Will we have the same issue after this election? The 4 front runners, whichever one of them wins, do you think they will be coming into office prepared?
You listen to them. You've heard them. You've heard everything they've said, in the campaign trail. I mean, you hear them saying, I'll do this, I'll do that, I'll hit the ground running and all of that.
They all say that.
Yes, they all said that. President Buhari said that. Jonathan said that. So that's it. I mean, these are just political rhetoric. So we just have to wait and see. The good thing is that the front runners are all experienced politicians. They've held executive positions at one time or the other. You have a former vice president. You can't tell me he's not prepared. You have a former governor. 2 former governors. You can tell me they are not.
3 former governors.
And if you go to Kwankwaso, a former governor, a former minister.
Yes.
So how prepared can you be actually? How prepared? That you don't understand what the problems are? Look at their manifestos. You look at their manifestos, you look at all the items they've highlighted in their manifestos. I mean, so it gives you the impression they are prepared and that they know what to do. But when they come into office...
That's what I was going to say. Let me play devil's advocate. So if they are that prepared, then why do we have problems? Why are we at this level of difficulty in the country if all our leaders came prepared? Why are we in a state of arrested development and just complete morass in terms of where we are?
Well, that's a difficult question to answer.
All right, we're fast running out of time. We'll look forward to Saturday coming and see how that plays out. Over to you here today. What do you have for us? Well, I think we have one more story to come out.
5 days to elections. Insecurity, credibility fears may affect voter turnout. What's your take on the insecurity raging across the country, Dio? Will it mar these elections?
Interesting. Well, INEC says it's prepared, but every other day there's a story about another INEC office being bombed or attacked and election materials being burnt. Of course, there's the issue of the riots and the protests from the Naira scarcity. There's insecurity in the east. They're burning INEC offices. In the north, there's banditry and various security problems. Despite INEC's reassurance, the concern is that people may stay away because of concerns about violence. I mean, in Lagos, we don't have a security problem, but we have thuggery problems. We have miscreant problems. We have area boy issues who look for every opportunity to hijack the process. Voter turnout has generally been low right from the time we came back to I don't think we've ever had 50% of registered voters
I think we've
turning up. We've had.
Okay.
But by and large, the numbers don't represent a majority of the registered voters. How will the problem, the turmoil we're going through in the country now, what impact do you think it'll have in terms of voter turnout and the credibility of these elections come Saturday?
It definitely would have. And that's the reason why I wished we didn't have this Naira crisis as well. Because that has worsened the situation. It definitely would have. And let me say something about INEC's preparedness now. You remember in 2015, INEC told us it was prepared, everything was ready. But what happened? The election got postponed. We had a similar situation in 2019. I have my fears. I have my fears when INEC says it is prepared. For instance, you remember a couple of days ago, the INEC chairman went to visit the central bank governor to also complain about the Naira policy, and the central bank governor gave the assurance that he would have cash. But I know, as at few days ago, probably 2 or 3 days ago, sources from INEC said, look, the cash has not been released yet. And they also have that fear that, you know, something might, things might go wrong, even though the INEC chairman has come out to say, well, you know, what we're asking for in terms of cash is not so much, so we believe the CBN will definitely do it and all of that. But that's just speaking of, you know, officially now. But
because without cash, they really can't run their logistics.
Yes, exactly.
They can't do they can't.
So that's a problem. So we just have to wait until election day to really tell if INEC was prepared all this while. Because you know the usual logistics nightmare on election day that INEC encounters and all of that. I do not think it's going to be substantially different this time, but let's just wait and see. In terms of voter turnout, as far as security is concerned, it will definitely affect turnout, especially in the southeast of the country where you continue to have attacks. The guys who are attacking INEC facilities and attacking police stations are doing so deliberately.
What is
their
aim?
Yes, they're sending fear to the people.
Why?
Just create that atmosphere of, well, you know what, this separatist group, I wouldn't want to mention the name now,
yes,
but the separatist group, you're aware, issued
yes,
a statement not quite long ago,
yes,
that elections would not take place in the southeast of the country. In fact, they declared the election day as a seat at home.
Yes.
So, and what they are trying to do now is to enforce it. Whether you like it or not, that's what they are trying to do. They're trying to send fear to the people so that on election day they would not come out. Well, some people would definitely come out, but I don't think the numbers would be that high.
Our security forces, are they not able?
They are able to, but we're talking about a national election. This is not an off-cycle election, so it's not an election that involves just 1 or 2 states. How many policemen do we have in this country? The IG said 400,000 security agents, joint security would be deployed. But, you know, do we even have that figure?
Even if we do, divided by 36.
Exactly, divide by 36. How many do you have?
In each state, let alone each community, each ward, each polling booth.
That's what we're talking about. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of polling units.
Yes.
Come on. It's going to be a challenge.
Yes.
Even if we had up to 1 million security men deployed for this election, it's still going to be a challenge. So obviously it will impact it will impact turnout, but by and large, election will definitely take place.
And a winner will be declared.
A winner will be declared.
And life will go on in Nigeria.
Yeah, of course. And
it's
always been like that anyway. It's
yes,
always been like that. Most of us thought 2015 was not going to happen. It happened.
Yes.
Yeah, at some point we thought 2007 was not going to happen. It happened. 2011 too. So you always have these. The only challenge, as I said, the only challenge I have at this time is this Naira redesign policy.
Yes.
I think it's made the whole thing look very,
Thank you very much, Deji. This has been a very robust and interesting engagement.
Thanks.
We thank you for joining us today on What's Your Take. Thank you, Yetunde Afolabi. My name is Dayo Akintobi. As you know, Saturday is the election. Those of us who have PVCs, let's come out, let's do our civic duty, and let's build the Nigeria of our dreams. Thank you for being with us. See you next time.